everyone! So for today's card I'm using Stamping Bella's Uptown Girl Paisley Has a Prezi, it's called. And I'm inking the image up with My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink, and then stamping her onto some CC Designs Copic Quality 110-pound cardstock. And just stamping it off onto the corner. I'm not even stamping the whole image because I kind of had an idea before starting out how I was going to create this card. And I'm actually going off of the latest Bellarific Friday Inspiration Challenge photo, which will be posted on my blog post so you guys can kind of see what inspired this whole card. So I'll have the link to that directly below the video. But yeah, once I had her stamped, I'm cutting her in with Copic markers. And as always, starting with the skin, and I used E50, E21, and E13, really simple. And then for her hair, I did my go-to brown hair color combo, which is E23, 25, 27, and 29. And I'm just flicking the color in, going from lightest to darkest. And I'm not going back at all because this is a smaller image and the kind of a little more free form. That's the one thing I really like about these little Uptown girls, just the way they're drawn. And I don't know, it's just easier for me to think out of the box a little bit and not be so OCD and feel like I need to color in all the lines and the coloring has to be perfect. You can kind of scribble and be a little freer with it and have some fun. So once I was done with her hair, I went on to her dress and I did a really hot pink because the inspiration photo, the girl in it is wearing this really hot pink dress and what looks like kind of a dark purple edge underneath, I guess. Yeah, you can see more in the photo, but it's a really small photo, so I just kind of went off that and thought I'd color her dress a really hot pink, and then I added some purple to the bottom of it just for some fun contrast. And then the little present, I just colored it yellow and then gave it kind of a blue bow, so just Y11 and Y15, and then BG000 and BG01, and that finished off the image really easy. So once I was done, I just trimmed it down a teeny bit, trimmed down that bottom a little bit so it was just her legs, and then I'm going to cut this out with my detail scissors, which I always do off camera because trying to hold one of these on camera and trim at the same time without like cutting her head off is nearly impossible. So trimmed her down, didn't take very long, it was pretty simple. And then I grabbed my Simon Says Stamp balloon dies and die cut several balloons from the same white cardstock. And then I colored them in with Copic markers. And what I should have done was used the 80-pound cardstock instead of the 110-pound, only because coloring like this, it soaks up a lot of ink. And I normally don't really care, but I noticed it with a couple that I now need to re-ink a couple of my markers, but my yellow especially. But considering I've had that yellow marker for, well, I've had my Copics for about 7 years now, and some of them are still going strong. Like, I've not ever had to refill them, so it's not too bad, but I don't have a refill on hand, so I was kind of regretting using such heavyweight cardstock. But anyway, I just used 2 colors for each balloon. You could get a lot more like depth going and make it look even nicer if you use like 3 or even 4 colors, but I only wanted to use 2. I thought that would just give it enough. And again, I chose my colors based on the inspiration photos, so a couple of them I did in the same colors, and then the other ones I just did in other colors that I just pulled out of my Copic stash to kind of go along with the inspiration photo, and then made sure to do 1 red balloon. So got those all colored in, and then I just grabbed some black thread, and the easiest way to attach thread to die cuts like this is to just start tying a knot, but obviously don't pull it tight, and then you basically would just pull it over top of the little bottom of the balloon there. And as you do that, you just pull the thread tight. So then it's wrapped around there. You're not trying to, you know, wrangle it on there and wrap the thread around and all that stuff. So this is the easiest way I've always found to do it. So wrap that around, tied it in a knot, and then did it for every single one. The smallest balloon die in this set has a funny little end on it. Like, it's not narrow there like the other ones. So it takes a little bit more wrangling to get it on there. But once I've got it all tied on, I made sure to take care of that by using a little bit of my Ranger Multi-Matte Medium. Just squeezed a little bit of that onto a craft sheet, and then I just dabbed it on with my fingers just on the back of the balloons here and over the thread, so that when this dries, this will just anchor those threads in place so that they don't end up slipping off the ends of the balloons here, and it just holds them all. And I did all of them, even the larger ones here, just because I had the adhesive out and I thought, why not? Might as well be, better be safe than sorry. So I let that dry. It only took a few minutes for that little amount of adhesive to dry. And then I grabbed my card base, which was again the 110-pound cardstock. And in the picture, there's like all these balloons being held, like floating up in the air. So that's kind of what I was going for here. And my original plan was to have some of these balloons go off the edges on the top, and then I was going to trim them off and everything else. And then I thought, you know what? I really like how the balloons are just as is. They don't need to be trimmed down. If you wanted to fit a card like this into a standard A2 sized envelope, you would need to trim these balloons, the tops that are hanging off. You'd have to trim them down because otherwise it wouldn't fit in an envelope. But cards like this, usually I'll just give them to someone, like use it for a gift, and I would like slip it into the gift bag without putting it in an envelope at all. So, or if I was going to mail it, I'd just mail it in a larger, like a bubble envelope or something, so that it didn't get smushed and, you know, would fit in that. So that's how I would deal with it. So I glued some of the balloons down, and other ones I popped up on foam tape just to give it a little bit of extra dimension and just kind of keeping the strings out of the way there. And then once I was done with that, I decided to pop up my little main image here on foam tape as well. So I just ripped up and cut up several small pieces to make sure it was completely coated. And then I tied the threads in a knot, and I'm adhering the knot to the card. And at the very end of the video, when I show the finished video of the card, I actually ended up tying a separate bow and adhering that over top, but that was kind of an afterthought. I just didn't like how the knot looked just floating there, and I had to use a fair bit of the Ranger Multimedia Matte to adhere this. Like, it took a lot more than I thought it would need, and I ended up actually putting my mug of Copic markers, that's where I store them when I'm coloring, I set that on top of the knot while it dried just to really press it down so that it caught really well, and then it was completely fine once the adhesive was dry. So then I adhered my little Uptown Girl over that, and of course I had to add a bit of shimmer. So I grabbed a couple of my different Wink of Stella brushes. I grabbed the dark pink and the violet, so I did the dark pink to her dress and then outlined some of the stripes on the top part of her outfit. Just it gives it that little bit of extra definition, and of course the shimmer, which is what I love. And then I used the violet along the bottom of her dress, and you can see the camera kind of picks up some of the shimmer here. This is so shimmery. I love my Wink of Stella markers. Have them in every single color, and yeah, I just love them. So I grabbed just the clear to go over the little bow and the present. And that finishes off the outside of the card. I thought I would just leave that as is and not add any more embellishment to it. So for the inside of the card, I just inked up the Uptown Girl again with my Memento Angel pink ink. It's just a nice light pink ink. And this time I inked up the whole image and thought I would just stamp the whole thing on the inside of the card. So I just stamped it off to the side. And then once that is stamped, I'm going to ink up the sentiment that comes with this stamp, and I'm going to ink it up with the Black Licorice Hybrid ink again, same as what I used on the main image on the front. So just ink that up, and I'm going to use my stamp positioner just to make sure I get that lined up on the inside of my card and straight. And that's all there was to it. So as always, there will be a link below the video to my blog post with links to the supplies used, as well as the supplies linked below the video. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and thumbs upping my videos if you enjoyed them, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!